sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes that you are. All right. Welcome. Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew David. This is Blake Newbar's partner program. Hello. So what I want to do, this high performance call today, we have a special guest with us, a gentleman named Otto. I met him. Is it pronounced Rube Summon? How do you pronounce that, Otto? Am I correct there? You muted yourself there, but
yeah, it's Rube Summon.
Okay, perfect. So met with Otto. Was it only last week, a week and a half ago?
Last week.
These guys have heard a lot about Steve Sims. A lot of these people were on when I did that live call. And so I was at the speakeasy, and Otto was a guy that stood out, not simply because he's significantly taller than I am. He's a big dude. And he was hanging from the rafters doing pull-ups, but he's intelligent as all get out. And so talking with him, one of the things that he does that he excels at is marketing copy, helping businesses write their copy. Because let's face it, most people aren't familiar yet with how to write copy that actually converts or that calls attention. And so I asked him to come on because I know all of us can use a little extra help with that. So Otto has been writing copy now for over a decade, done it for dozens of companies in all sorts of different ways. And so I asked him to come on and share some of that knowledge with us. So thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
And then one other cool thing, guys. So some of you guys remember the movie I talked about a while ago called The Way and El Camino de Santiago through Europe. Otto's actually done that and went on a little pilgrimage there, which I thought was cool as hell. So maybe I'll ask a couple of questions about that towards the end. So awesome. Otto. How long you been writing marketing copy? How'd you get into writing marketing copy? Let's kind of start there.
I'm 37 now. I was 19. I was at a marketing seminar or a business growth seminar, and they said, learn marketing and you'll do well in life. I'm like, okay, I want to do well in life. So I went and learned marketing. And what really pulled me into it was I sunk my teeth into the Gary Halbert newsletter. And I grew this fascination and a passion for marketing, and the way that Gary Halbert would talk about writing ad copy, he would just make it seem so simple and so, mesmerizing. And then I started trying to write copy and realized that I was very terrible at it.
Well, all right. So one of the first questions we have, and guys, if you have questions as we go along, then drop them into the chat. So one of the first ones is just, what is copy? Now, so because we've got some newbies, we have some veterans on here. If someone just says, what do you mean by copy? What is copy and marketing copy? What does that mean?
Marketing copy is anything that gets a result. You're writing for an effect. So whether you want people to raise their hands and become leads, or you want to create a sale through your communications, that's all copy. Copy is, spoken sales in print. It's salesmanship in print. It's salesmanship in different mediums where you're not body to body with someone, and getting your message across effectively is the difference between people turning you off and people whipping out their wallet and buying what you have to sell.
Right. So I like what you said about how it's salesmanship, but written down, right, in the written word. What do you say when people kind of say, well, I don't want to be salesman-y, or I don't want to be salesy in my copy, or they worry about, there's a lot of people that kind of have this stigma when it comes to sales.
Yeah. So, the short answer is get over it, but the longer answer is, at the end of the day, how you present yourself. If you're going to tell stories are still sales. If you're telling a story, you're still selling. If you're, talking with your spouse about where you want to go to eat that night, you're selling. You're always selling. If you're if a person has kids and they're trying to get the kids to go to school in the morning, they're selling. If the kids don't want to go to school, they're, having to figure out how to, work around that. So
Right.
everyone sells. It's just a matter of how you're framing it internally with your own belief systems.
Yeah. A big part of that, guys. So one of the things, one of the ways that I heard it described is just marketing is that process that you take someone through to help them come to an emotional or logical decision that what you have is of value to them. And so you can do it, horribly, not learning how to write copy, not learning how to communicate through the written word, or even, and this is something else to remember, guys, copy, there's written copy, and then there's still copy. Like if I'm filming a video and I write a script, there's still copy there, right? There's still that you're still expressing to them something, trying to get them to take action on what you're trying to do, right? Yeah. So you mentioned Gary Halbert, and that's a name that I don't know if many people on here are familiar with. Who was he? And
Gary was a famous and sometimes infamous direct response marketer. He wrote advertisements that had profound impact. One of his more famous ones I think it was the late 80s, he wrote a coat of arms letter, which was a 316 word single page letter that was direct mailed over 100 million times, selling information on people's last name. So back pre-internet, it wasn't always the easiest to get information. You couldn't just hop on Google and say, hey, what's the information on what's the origins of Rupsamen, or what's the origins of whatever name you put in. Right. So when what he found is that he wrote this letter, he tested it, it worked, it made a profit, and then he started getting more into the data science of it, and he realized, the more unique the last name, the more people are likely to buy. So like if he was mailing to a Smith, they weren't as interested as Mercy, I might butcher your name, but Oleakin. So your last name would be a type of last name that his letter would have crushed with, because people wanted to know, especially on the harder to pronounce names, what was the origins, what was the details of that last name. But if you're a Miller, okay, I'm not so interested.
Yeah. So Gary wrote long form copy, was a big part of what he did. So he's, Otto's talking about letters, and it was some of those advertisements, instead of it just being a big headline, it was written in a way to take people on a journey right through the written word. Yeah. So you have guys like Gary Halbert, you have guys like Dan Kennedy. And so everybody here is familiar with ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson. If you read his books, he talks about Kennedy, he talks about Halbert. He just bought Dan Kennedy's company to help bring more knowledge about writing copy into, the overall space. Learning how to write marketing copy is going to be one of the most important things you can learn. When Blake was on our high performance call, guys, a few months ago, I asked him what one of the things he thought was most important, and it comes to marketing, right? He said marketing. Otto 20 years ago, almost in a conference, and they said, go learn marketing, right? The reason I've learned and spent time with the people that I have is because I spend time learning marketing. So what was maybe, as you've gone through, how have you seen social media affect marketing? And let's start to talk about effective and ineffective marketing and social media, because a lot of our members here, that's their most kind of common thing.
Yeah. So it comes back to a lot of time the hooks you're using and the imagery or the video that you're using. Okay. Last year I did a lot of testing selling a cleaning product with a friend of mine, and this was a little tiny washing machine cleaning tablet, and we sold a lot of it. we ran almost $700,000 worth of traffic just to sell this cleaning product. And what we were finding is testing a lot of different types of imagery. You know, if you test 10 images, one, maybe two might work well, and the others either marginal or losers. So, you know, doing a lot of testing helps. Really looking into your videos, you know, short, impactful videos have a huge reach.
So how would you recommend, if we're looking at being impactful and testing, but you know, you don't have 700 grand to throw at testing, right? Like, what's a way to do that through an organic pathway?
Start small, see what gets engagement, see what gets people to raise their hands. Are you know, in this case, are you looking for to generate leads off of these social posts, or are you looking? Okay.
So we're trying to generate leads to look at, and most of the leads that we're generating, so it's more B2B, right? So we're targeting business owners, right? And the goal is, and the business owners are leads, and the idea is to help those business owners use the digital products that we've got to generate their own leads.
Okay.
Right? So it's marketing geared towards business owners is kind of the effect that we're looking at.
So I'll give you a few hooks that are universal type, and I'll give you some examples. So hooks like curiosity or emotional driven or benefit leading or testimonial leading. Those are different types of hooks that pull people in. Some specific examples on a curiosity. The number one food to never eat on an airplane. That was a hook that Agora used and sold a ton of information off of some sort of a product, on an info product in the back end. You know, that can be transformed to the number one blank to never blank.
Yeah.
You know?
So the number one thing, you know, to avoid or number one thing to never do to piss off your customers or something, right? So we're talking to,
how about the number one customer to never accept into your business? Kind of counterintuitive.
Right. Yeah. Are you guys understanding what we're doing? So you're giving things to the business owner, you're helping them with their business. That's the whole point, right? And this builds up your credibility. It builds up, you know, their trust in you that, hey, they've got something. And it's, I mean, curiosity-based hooks. That's what it's about. So go ahead, Otto.
All right. So I'm going to put a few of these in the chat here.
While you're doing that, I'm going to look. Yeah, Nick Kolenda, like there's one of the books that I like is Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. I love the way they talk about it. Yeah, most marketing is always based on psychology, right? And human behavior. This is one of the reasons I talk about reading certain books, guys. It helps you understand, time and again, studies show the reading the right books helps you understand how people behave and who they are. And the more that you understand them, and this is why we talk about researching your niche and those business owners, if you understand their problems, then it's easier to come up with, right? So what else do we have here? Dead doctors don't lie.
That was a headline that was used to really build an MLM business back up in the days of cassettes. They had a cassette that was the title of it, and they used that cassette to build their MLM business until they got a cease and desist on using that particular title.
So like I lost 23 pounds without changing my diet. So if I am targeting business owners and I want to help them with their marketing, what would be a way that, so I mean, it's almost like the headline Blake has, guys, where it's, you know, how to generate leads without, you know, spending any money in advertising. When I do business coaching, one of the lead-ins that I have is, you know, I'll help you find, you know, $20,000 to $50,000 in additional revenue without spending a dime on advertising. Right. And I go, wait, what? Yeah, I'll help you find an additional 50K without spending any money on advertising. So what would be another one along those lines, Otto? I lost 23 pounds. Like, how would you go about that? I'm totally putting you on the spot.
I saved an hour a day and gained 23 new leads a week.
There you go.
Or
I hope somebody heard that and wrote it down.
I saved an hour a day and gained 23 new leads a week.
Yeah. All right. So let me see. Hook. So curiosity, emotional benefit leading to testimonial. What else did we have?
You could so all these headlines are formulaic. There's a really, if you just Google 100 greatest headlines, you'll get there's a PDF of the 100 greatest headlines from Victor O. Schwab's book, How to Write a Good Headline. How to write a good advertisement. And there's they're all formulaic. It might say whatever it's saying, but if you just blank out the content and then put in new content, it's interchangeable. Yeah. So how to achieve a complete full body workout in only 4 minutes a day. That was a $1,500 or $15,000 Rome machine that is some giant monstrous machine that gives you a full body workout in 4 minutes. If you just change that to
how to generate leads on free leads on social media in as little as 5 minutes a day. I mean, something simple like that.
Exactly. Achieve a flood of new customers with social media in only 4 minutes a day.
See, you hear how much better a flood of new customers sounds than additional leads, right? Because he's creating that imagery in their head, and they're imagining it flooding their inbox, that kind of thing. So here's a question, and Chantal, we're going to answer it, and hopefully you've been on a couple of these calls already, and if you haven't, you keep coming back, you'll understand. So I'm not picking on you when we're looking at it, but I think this question, so she has here, Otto, how do you stay ethical without using what you know about human behavior against people? So I think that question's kind of coming from a point of view of marketing is evil still, right?
I mean, to be candid, a lot of marketers are not ethical. You know,
totally agree.
So I'm really like, at this point in my career, I'm real specific about who I work with. And if someone is selling something that is not actually helping the people that they're selling to, I avoid those projects. If someone's selling something that is just taking advantage of people and stealing their money, it's like, I got better things to do with my time.
So when you have something, with this guys, and I totally agree. So when I look at marketing, I look at, helping them come to an emotional, logical decision, but that what they have is a benefit. And, from a marketing perspective, that what I have is ethical, that it's actually going to do what it promises. And what I go about doing, if I'm marketing or selling something, I want to make sure whatever it is, we over deliver, right? That that provides more than what the clients expect. 100%. So as long as you guys aren't promising, hey, do this and you'll get millions of dollars or millions of leads, or you don't promise that there's nothing to do, because there's, no matter what happens, even if they change their profiles and they make modifications and all of the pieces are in place, there's still steps that have to take place. So as long as you're not promising anything unethical, then using human behavior is fine, because otherwise you don't connect with someone. And you have to I look at it as, if I've got something that's really going to help you, and like with these calls and having people like Otto on and others that I've had on, guys, if I didn't prod at your emotions from time to time, I feel like I'd be doing a disservice, because I know the value of what we can do, right? So you have to kind of look at it that way, both ways. And Otto, if you go ahead.
Here's a really important thing. I'm going to put this in the chat. It's really about knowing inside your prospect's head and mind and emotions. And the more you understand your prospect, the easier it is to generate a sale. So let's go back to examples of, if you have a spouse, you know your spouse very well. You know the things that you know what problems they have. You know what their desires are. You know what their relevant beliefs are. You know what they're going to feel negatively towards or positively towards. And you know what they've tried in the past, or aren't adverse to trying. And then what other people might be saying to them. So like the more you can put a focus on your avatar and who they are and what they're doing, the deeper you understand them, the easier it is to speak to how you can help them, how you can solve their problems, how you can fix the issues that are going on for them and get them a result.
Yeah. If you don't understand your audience, then your marketing, your copy is always going to fall flat, right? If you're concerned with, hey, let me show you my shiny shit, as opposed to let me fix your problem, there's going to be a disconnect, right? So you got to understand who they are. That's where research comes in. As we talk, Blake talks about, understanding who your audience is, listening to your audience, and using social media. You can ask them and you can research. You can find out what's going on in any particular industry with Google, with social media, and then you can join some of these groups, and you can, without even asking the questions, you can see what they're bitching and complaining about.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to tailor my headlines to. And I'm going to find something that helps. Go ahead. Speaking
to bitching and complaining, who's their common enemy? If you create an us versus them type of a framing in your communication, like give me a common enemy, IRS.
Yeah, IRS. Go with IRS.
I mean, creating this on the fly. I mean, if you're talking to a business owner and they want to get more leads and sales, or I'm trying to think of a framing here.
I mean, it'd be something along the lines of the IRS is taken away from you, so find a way to put it back in your own pocket.
Yeah.
But you'd have to be careful. I mean, IRS is a great example, but then I'm thinking compliance shit with marketing copy talking.
Yeah.
So, but it's a good one, right? Like the common element, and this is something to understand, guys, with every single business that you're going after, every industry has some of their own problems. Every business owner wants more clients. Every business owner wants to put more profit in their pocket. All of them. All of them.
I mean, here's a different example. If you're a CPA, maybe you focus on lowering your clients' tax bases. Maybe you use a headline of "Stop letting Uncle Sam pinch your pocket."
Mm.
Yeah.
So, okay. Let me see. So Chantel, real quick, Chantel's talking about high pressure, overwhelming people with emails. So how important is it to be in front of your audience often versus once in a while?
It depends. It depends on your audience, and it depends on how you're approaching them.
Okay.
So if you're if all of your emails are like, "Hey, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff," they're not gonna open. They're not gonna want to listen to you. But if you're telling these creative or inspiring stories and then having a little like blurb at the end about what you do or how you can benefit them, you can enroll them into the story. And then if you get a little more, so generally you have a story, you have a point, and then you have a call to action. And before the story, you want to have some sort of a hook, like a hook, a story, a point, a call to action.
Everybody get that? Hook, story, point, call to action. That's every post. That's everything you do all of the time, guys, is essentially that. Something to call their attention, your hook, story, the point of your story, and then, what you want them to do because they heard your story, right? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Otto.
So after you tell a good story, you want to have one single point from it. You don't want to make two, you don't want to make three. The story will give you enough of a dropping of their defense mechanisms so that you can start, creating more unconscious rapport with them. and then you make a single point from that. And it's kind of the higher levels of this. You can start embedding in hypnotic and open loop type storytelling, and use some topic that's completely off what you're saying, but you're giving them the result they're after through the use of the story. But that's a little more advanced. But at the end of the day, you tell a story and you make a single point of that story. So, if you're what would be a good story here?
And hey guys, what I'm gonna do, Otto, when we're done, do you have all these questions and stuff like on a Word doc or something?
The
stuff you've been
the
copying and pasting.
Yeah, I have a Word doc written up here.
Just a couple of the basics that you've been copying and pasting in there, and then I'll ask him to email it to me and I'll get it to you guys. Because it's kind of hard to copy out of there. So yeah, 5 easy ways. What about the pandemic vaccination choices? Yeah, those are all issues we all have. Sure. Let's see. So the hook. I'm just looking to see what else we've got in here. Okay. Go ahead.
Questions and stories. So I back in 2006, I interviewed a guy named David Lakhani on, we did a discussion around persuasion secrets revealed. And I was really working hard to understand more about communication and influence. And Dave Lakhani is a gentleman who grew up in a cult. And when he was a teenager, he got out of it and spent the next 25 years studying influence and sales and persuasion to figure out how his mother made the choice to go into this cult, and then raising him in it, because he wanted to understand what were the specific things they did to form the cult and create this this niche group that ostracized the outsiders. And anyways, long story short, he told me in this interview that if he only had 2 tools of influence, it would be questions and stories. And back then I didn't fully understand that. I just kind of like noted it and, acted like I was, oh yeah, of course. But no clue. At the end of the day though, over the years, I've realized when you ask questions, you can elicit data, you can elicit understanding of where people are at, and you can calibrate to that. And then based on what you learn from the questions you ask, you can tell stories that map over to their belief systems and start moving them in the direction you want them to go. And
so if I'm looking at, I'm going after a certain type of business, what are some questions that you ask that helps you gain that understanding so you can start to kind of create some stories? Are you following what he's throwing down here? Are you guys pay attention? Like, this is
what are the biggest challenges you're facing right now?
What are some of the challenges you're facing right now? What else? So let's assume, all right, so you're a marketer, right? And you want to help me with my marketing, right? So interview me. Let's say I have a restoration business. That was the business I was in for over a decade. So I've got a restoration business, Otto. You're going to ask me some questions, and overall, you want to help me get more leads. That's where you want to get to. But what would be some questions that you're asking? So first one would be, what problems are you facing right now? What else would you ask?
For restoration, what types of things do you restore?
So we do water damage and mold. So like insurance restoration on property damage.
Got it. And what have been some of the biggest challenges you're experiencing? Kind of your top 2.
It's always a problem trying to get good help, but even once I have the help, it's getting the homeowner to call me instead of the insurance company, or getting on some of the insurance companies' preferred vendor lists. And those are some of the biggest challenges I think I face all the time.
Okay. Where are you at right now with your business? Kind of where are you at and where are you looking to go?
We're doing okay. I run my business right now. We're 100% referral based. I just get some people that refer me stuff, but I'd really like to be able to scale that and get some customers from elsewhere. Right. I'd like to be able to do that.
Okay. If you could kind of paint, wave a magic wand and paint your ideal scenario, how many new customers would you be getting a week or a month?
Well, damn, son, as many as you can give me. I don't know how many times I've heard that phrase. So I don't know, man. I mean, we probably handle another half dozen calls a week at least, because I mean, if I can get 10 calls a week and I can close, 4, 5, 6 of those every single week, then I get a whole new team out on the road and a new truck and get things going. We can really scale our business well.
Okay.
I mean, do you know how to do that?
Well, let me ask you this. So the last client I worked with, we took them from nothing to over 1,000 leads extra per month. Is that a volume you can handle?
No, I wouldn't be able to do 1,000.
Okay.
Not right now. I'd like to, build that up. But, I mean, man, if you could do that with them, what do you think you could do with me?
Well, I mean, is 10 calls a week the max you can handle right now, or what's a comfortable place for you?
No, I'd like a bit more for sure. So, all right, I'm gonna cut right there. And so, yeah, in a way, it can be coaching. But the conversation that Otto's having with me right now, guys, you don't have to go out and do this with someone in your niche. But I will tell you, there's a handful of people that are on this call that are going to get the cojones to go ahead and reach out to someone in their niche and say, hey, and ask them these series of questions and ask them what's going on in their niche and ask them what's happening with them. Now, some of you may be marketing to a niche you're really familiar with, so you can answer some of those questions yourself, but reach out to someone. If you're going after realtors, reach out to a real estate agent. Say, listen, I've got this new product that helps people with social media, and I'm not trying to sell you on it, but I really just want to understand what's going on better in your market right now. And let me tell you, if you're going after business owners and people that are self-employed, they want to talk about themselves and they want to talk about their problems. So if you don't try to sell them with it, see, by the end of this, like the only story that he threw in there was I was able to do this, generate 1,000 leads for this last customer that was in a similar industry. Could you handle that? Like, how hard would it be for me to say, hey, I want to pay. Can you do that for me? I don't need 1,000, but man, can you get me 100 a month? Well, shit, like he's got me already hooked, right? So
that also reframed the whole conversation, because the question was, can you help me? And it moved from, am I sure you can help me? How do I know you can help me? To, oh, wow, I can't handle that much business. Can you do less?
Right. And what you guys are doing, you don't have to do this in a way like, hey, I'm going to provide those services. Some of you may be at that point where you're thinking of doing some of the digital marketing for them or outsourcing that. But really it is kind of like Chantel's saying there. Yeah, you hear them out. Now, in a digital world, hearing them out may mean asking these questions in a Facebook post, inside of a group, asking them to engage with you. Hey, what's the biggest challenge you guys have right now? Right? What would happen if you guys could, where is your biggest lead source currently? And so many of them are just going to say that it's through word of mouth, right? Which is really, in my mind, I had a business and I thought that my word of mouth referral was the best way to do it, until I figured out that really just means that I didn't know shit about writing marketing copy. And that's why the only thing I got was word of mouth. So helping them understand that possibility is there is tremendous. So I had asked Otto for 30 to 40 minutes. We're pushing that. Do you have any other knowledge bombs, anything else that's kind of sticking out right now that you'd like to throw at people?
This is really useful. The way people make decisions. Predicates. So I was trained in neurolinguistic programming, and the person that trained me, he also modeled some of the top salespeople in the world and developed a behavioral model on sales. And the top salespeople in the world, they focus on, so when people buy, 40% of people buy based on how something looks. Another 40% of people buy based on how something feels, having an emotional feeling to it, whether it's a kinesthetic touch or a gut feeling toward it. 15% of people buy based on how something sounds, and only 5% of people buy because it makes sense. So if you're presenting, if you're communicating, realize that you get 80% of people by the look and the feel. And then
and that doesn't just mean like how it feels in my hands, guys, or what it looks like as I'm looking at it like this, right?
Yeah, the emotional connection. So
yeah, how they feel, and so that's where using words like "can you see how," what would it feel like to, or all of those types of things, right? It's that empathy people see, or it's how they learn. So some of you may feel that connection, and others may see how that may work for them, right? So it doesn't have to be what's in their hands at the time. Go ahead, Otto. Sorry.
yeah, no. Some of the questions in the chat were revolving around books or resources. Another free tool you can look up is the Power Words Report by John Carlton. If you Google
Carlton's,
yeah. So I've actually taken his Power Words Report and hand rewritten every single word on it multiple times. And the percentages were 40 and 40 for how it looks and how it feels, 15% for how it sounds. So if you deliver it congruently in your tonality, you pick up the sounds right, people, and 5 towards makes sense. Yeah. Just looking at some resources. Words That Sell is a useful book for writing your copy. And shorter copy takes a little bit longer to write because it's about finding the right words that hit the impact and the emotional and visual tones.
But if you can do that, and you can be powerful in it, right? If you can capture, you learn how to write a headline. There's a gentleman named Dean Jackson, and was sharing, he's not only a realtor, he's a direct response marketer. And I remember going through one of his, you will stand out because not everybody does use this, Chantel. Very few people actually spend the time to learn how to do it. They like to be, long-winded. So all the time I tell people, like, try and be more concise in your message, try and figure some of this stuff out. Most people don't use it well. And if you're doing it and targeting a very specific niche, you've got a handful of people that you're competing against. And within any niche, it's a much more deep ocean than you can imagine, right? Okay. The opportunity is there. You just got to, that's why guys like Otto can, like, that's all he does is help people write that copy, because other people try and they're not great at it, So, all right, guys, has this been helpful? You gotten a little bit out of it? Hopefully you did. All right. I know I got a few looks on, like, everybody's kind of trying to consume. Otto, phenomenal, dude. There's so much here that is, I'll get a couple of key points from Otto. I will talk with him. I got to take him to lunch, or a shuhashkari or something to say thank you for being here. But he and I will talk. I will get some of the resources that he shared. Guys, this recording will be up later on today, this evening. Watch it over and again and pay attention to some of the stuff that he said. First time around, I guarantee you missed at least a half dozen different phrases that he threw out there that if you used in your market, like, stuff will start to click and you'll go, holy crap, I could have just said this, right? How do I make an easy headline? Take somebody else's headline and put it in your niche, right?
One of the people we listened to in Austin had a great way of framing having a downtime in life, or being depressed. He said, "I cried myself to sleep in a puddle of vodka," which like, that was Jesse. But that that was such a visceral way of explaining how bad he felt in just a few short words.
Yeah. guys, NLP. There's all sorts of different stuff, guys. Point of all of this, marketing copy can be powerful. It can be transformative for your business. But the great thing is if you do it in an ethical way, it can be transformative for your client's business. And ultimately, that's what it's about, right? We've talked a lot about impact that you can have. And I pulled a lot of stuff, Otto, from the speakeasy. I was speaking about Jesse's, authenticity and clarity and power. I talked about being a sovereign, and going out and, taking control of what's going on in your life because everything else is spinning so out of control. I got to meet guys like when I push you guys to invest in yourselves, when I push you to go to events, when I push you to do study and do different things, it's because you get opportunities to meet people like Otto and others that I'm still going to have on. I'm going to have, so Henry's going to join at one point.
Nice.
Brian said he'd hop on. And then, a few others. Like, guys, you have the power to do so much. So anyway, I want to wrap up. Everybody, hop off of mute, say thank you to Otto for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Otto.
Otto, that was
Appreciate
awesome.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Otto. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Otto.
Awesome stuff,
Thank
Otto.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Otto.
I will, I'll get with you, try and get some of the, the content that you dropped into the chat here, but I appreciate you coming on, my man. And I'm serious. I'll reach out. I'll get you, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to fly out there and get to Texas to Brazil anytime soon. So I'll get you hooked up, brother.
Até outro dia.
Sim, outro dia a gente come pão de queijo e marca essa viagem para Portugal e faz a viagem.
Eu tenho pão de queijo aqui.
Tá joia, tá beleza. Abraço para você e para sua namorada. For all of you guys, appreciate you being on live tomorrow. I'll film a little video later on this afternoon, show you guys kind of what's going on here at the retreat that I'm currently at. But same bat time or same channel tomorrow, noon Eastern time. Appreciate you guys. And yeah, I will get information from Otto, get it to everybody. Love you. Appreciate you. Go out. Have an amazing day.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Otto.
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes that you are.